My name is Merrick Hale, and the morning after I killed my own wedding, I didn't cry, I didn't drink, and I didn't call anyone to explain. I put on the same black suit I'd worn 12 hours earlier, re-knotted the same charcoal tie, and drove straight to Aldridge Tower while the internet was still waking up to viral clips of me saying, "This wedding is over." The sky over Charlotte was the color of wet concrete. My mother was still asleep in the guest room of my rented loft downtown, wearing one of my old hoodies because she'd refused to keep the dress she'd been insulted in. I left a note on the kitchen counter. Asterisk back by lunch. Eat something. Love you. M asterisk. I didn't write the real plan. Some truths are too heavy for 7 a.m. handwriting. The lobby security guard who had always called me Mr. Hale now looked at me like I might be radioactive. He still swiped me through. The elevator ride to the 42nd floor was silent except for the soft mechanical chime every 10 floors, like a countdown nobody had asked for. When the doors opened, Gregory's executive assistant was already waiting in the hallway. Arms crossed, mascara tracks dried on her cheeks. "They're in the main boardroom," she said. Her voice cracked on the last word. "They've been there since 4 a.m. I nodded once and walked past her. The boardroom glass was floor to ceiling on 3 sides. From inside it looked like the entire city was pressing its face against the window to watch what happened next. Gregory stood at the head of the 30-foot table like a general who'd just lost half his army overnight. Victoria sat to his right, fingers locked so tightly the knuckles were bone white. Caitlin was on the opposite side, still wearing last night's makeup, eyes red but dry. 6 other board members and 3 lawyers filled the rest of the chairs. Every screen in the room showed paused footage from the documentary crew. Me at the microphone, mouth open mid-sentence, the exact frame where I said the words that ended everything. No one spoke when I entered. I didn't sit at the head. I didn't sit at all. I set a slim leather folder on the polished walnut and remained standing. "Before anyone starts yelling," I said, voice calm enough that it sounded rehearsed even though it wasn't, "there's one number you need to hear first." I opened the folder and slid the top sheet across the table toward Gregory. It landed perfectly centered in front of him. 55.3%. Voting shares. Controlled through 3 Delaware shells with names so boring they could have been accounting firms. Crescent Holdings LLC, Pineview Capital Partners, and Riverstone Advisors. Mine. Gregory stared at the page like it was written in a dead language. Then he looked up at me, pupils blown wide. "You little." "Careful," I cut in. "The mics are hot." Documentary crew left one running in the ceiling panel. I checked. His mouth snapped shut. Victoria made a small, strangled sound. Caitlin's hand jerked toward her phone, then stopped, like she remembered there was no one left to text for help. I kept going because silence was the only thing they still controlled, and I wasn't giving it back. "I didn't buy these shares to humiliate you," I said. "I bought them because for 18 months you treated my work like free decoration and my mother like background footage for your origin story montages. You called her golden hands. You called her community spirit. Last night you called her a mistake in a dress. In front of cameras. In front of 200 people who paid 5 figures to sit in that ballroom and clap for your brand of generosity." I let the words hang. "Then you laughed," I said, looking straight at Caitlin. "All of you." Caitlin's lips parted. Nothing came out. I pulled the next document from the folder. 8 stills from a private investigation firm's report. Grainy long lens shots. My mother leaving the Raleigh salon at 8:17 p.m. My mother reading nutrition labels in the grocery store aisle. My mother sitting alone in the Maple Lane diner booth we'd sat in since I was 16. Hands wrapped around a chipped mug. The invoice was paper-clipped to the back. Billing address. A holding company that traced to Victoria's personal trust. Tapped one photo. When did tailing a hairstylist become part of wedding planning? Victoria's voice was barely above a whisper. We needed a context. For the documentary. Human details sell. She's not a detail, I said. Each word landed like a hammer on glass. She's a person. You followed her life like she was wildlife. Then you stood up in front of chandeliers worth more than her house and called her garbage wrapped in chiffon. For the first time since I'd walked in, Gregory moved. He shoved his chair back so violently it hit the credenza behind him. You think you can waltz in here with some backroom share grab and play savior? This company is 4 generations deep. You're a guest who overstayed. I met his eyes without blinking. I was never a guest, I said. I was inventory. You packaged my childhood, my mother's calluses, my app, my benches in Chicago, everything I built from nothing, and sold it as proof your ecosystem works. You erased City Pulse's logo from the Lincoln District slides. You rerouted my diagrams through nameless subcontractors who don't even have websites. And when I asked why, your daughter told me it was better if I stayed the story, and not the technician. I looked at Caitlin again. You said those words. I remember the exact cafe. River North. October 2 years ago. You said it would confuse the narrative. Her shoulders folded inward half an inch. Gregory barked a laugh that had no humor in it. So this is revenge. Because your mommy got her feelings hurt. No, I said quietly. This is accounting. I laid out 3 more sheets. Preliminary forensic audit summaries. Lincoln District Green Corridor. $14.7 million disbursed to 3 subcontractors with P.O. boxes in Nevada and no verifiable employees. Site photos that stopped after groundbreaking. Work logs that ended mid-sentence. Invoices that rounded to the nearest 100,000 like someone was tipping themselves. I didn't raise my voice. I have the votes. Effective immediately. Gregory Aldridge is suspended as CEO pending full independent review. Victoria Aldridge's signing authority for new contracts is revoked. All Lincoln District payments are frozen. Every major project from the last 36 months goes under external audit starting tomorrow morning. The City Council Oversight Committee will receive courtesy copies by end of day. One of the younger board members, a cousin I'd met twice at holiday parties, finally spoke. He's not bluffing, he said. I checked the shareholder registry at 5 a.m. It's clean. It's legal. Gregory turned purple. You sold us out to him. The cousin didn't flinch. I didn't sell anything. I just stopped lying to myself about what I was signing. Chaos erupted then. Overlapping voices, chairs scraping, lawyers shouting for order, phones being pulled out like weapons. Through it all I stayed standing, hands flat on the table, watching the empire I'd quietly strangled start to thrash. And somewhere in the back of my mind, under all the adrenaline and anger, one small, clear thought kept repeating. Asterisk, Mom's still asleep. She doesn't even know yet. Asterisk. The room fractured like cheap glass under pressure. Gregory lunged for the stack of documents, but one of the lawyers, older, silver-haired, the kind who billed by the syllable, put a firm hand on his forearm. Don't touch them, Greg. They're already filed with the registrar. This isn't theater. Victoria's voice came out thin and shaking. You can't do this. We built this company. Our name is on the building. Your name is still on the building, I said. For now. The voting shares aren't. And the City Council already has courtesy copies of the preliminary audit. They'll be reading about ghost contractors and missing work logs while you're deciding what to tell the press downstairs. Caitlin finally spoke. Her voice was so quiet it almost drowned in the HVAC hum. How long? I met her eyes. No anger in mine anymore. Just clarity, the kind that comes after you've already decided the cost. 18 months, I said. Started the week after you showed me the Lincoln District deck and my circulation diagram had vanished. The week you told me your father preferred me as inspiration instead of co-owner. Asked questions. You gave answers that sounded like press releases. So I stopped asking you and started reading public filings. Gregory barked another laugh, this one jagged. You think you're some kind of vigilante. You used our daughter to get inside the tent and then stabbed us in the back. I used nothing, I said. I loved her. I believed her when she said she wanted cities that worked for people, not just spreadsheets. I believed it until I heard her laugh last night while your mother called mine garbage. Caitlin flinched like I'd slapped her. The younger board member, the cousin, stood up slowly. He's right about the numbers. I've been signing off on draw requests for 3 years that never matched site progress. I kept telling myself it was aggressive accounting. Then I saw the wedding clip at 3 this morning and realized I was signing off on the same kind of lie you told in that ballroom. Gregory rounded on him. You little. Enough, the lawyer cut in. We need counsel present before anyone says another word that can be subpoenaed. I gathered the folder. You have 48 hours to respond to the suspension notice. After that, the interim governance board takes over. Community reps, city liaison, independent chair. I keep majority control only long enough to make sure no one else pulls the same shell game twice. Then I step back. Victoria's laugh was bitter, almost admiring. And what do you get out of this? A ruined family. A tarnished brand. You think the world will thank you for burning down a company that employed 400 people? I get my mother's name out of your mouth, I said. I get my work out of your slide decks. I get the next kid who walks into a boardroom like this to be seen as a partner, not a mascot. I turned toward the door. Caitlin stood. Merrick. I stopped but didn't turn. I didn't know about the investigators, she said. I didn't know about the subcontractors. I thought the rough edges were just how big development works. I thought if we got married we could fix it together. From the inside. I looked back at her then. You laughed, I said simply. When she said it. You didn't flinch. You didn't correct her. You managed optics. That's what you chose in the moment that mattered most. Her mouth opened, closed. Tears tracked silently now. I walked out. The hallway was already filling with people. Staff who'd heard the shouting, junior analysts pretending to carry folders, security pretending not to watch. Phones were out. Someone was live streaming from the end of the corridor. I kept my eyes forward and rode the elevator down alone. By the time I reached the lobby, the glass doors were flanked by 3 news vans. Microphones swung like weapons. I didn't stop. I just kept walking until I reached my car, got in, and drove straight to the loft. Mom was awake when I got back. She was sitting at the kitchen island in my old gray hoodie, hair in the same low bun she'd worn to the wedding, sipping tea from one of my mismatched mugs. The television was on mute. The local station was already running the leaked clip on loop. Subtitles. Groom ends wedding after family insult. Corporate takeover rumors swirl. She didn't look up right away. I set my keys down quietly. You didn't eat, I said. Wasn't hungry. She finally met my eyes. You went there. Yeah. And I suspended him. Froze the dirty contracts. Told them the audit's already rolling. Cities pulling them from the preferred list by end of week. She let out a long breath. All that, because of one sentence. No, I said. Because of 18 months of sentences. Because they turned your life into marketing and mine into a prop. Because last night was just the moment I stopped pretending it was okay. She stared into her tea. You could have walked away clean. Kept the company, kept her, kept the life they were handing you. I didn't want the life they were handing me, I said. I wanted the one I built. The one you taught me how to build. A long silence. Then she said very softly, I was so proud watching you walk up to that microphone. Terrified but proud. You didn't yell. You didn't curse. You just ended it. Like it was already over before you said the words. I pulled out the stool across from her and sat. I'm sorry you had to hear it, I said. In front of all those people. She reached across and covered my hand with hers. The calluses on her knuckles were still there, same as always. I've heard worse, she said. In nicer rooms. From people who smiled while they said it. At least last night they said it out loud. Made it easier to see who they really were. I turned my hand over so our palms met. I'm not going to run the company, I told her. I'm keeping enough votes to stop another Gregory from taking over, but I'm going back to Chicago. Back to City Pulse. Starting something new. Foundation. Scholarships, microgrants, mentorship. For kids from places like Akron. Places where the only thing bigger than the rent is the list of things people say you'll never do. She smiled. Small, real, the kind she saved for when no one important was watching. Named after me. After your initial, I said. L Foundation. You hate spotlights. I figured an initial was compromise enough. She laughed then, soft and surprised. You're still ridiculous. We sat there a long time, hands linked across the island, television flickering silently behind us. The clip played again, me at the microphone, pushing the chair back, taking her hand. This time she didn't look away. Eventually she said, "You know they're going to come after you. Dosu. Smear pieces. They'll say you're bitter, that you used Caitlin, that you're destroying jobs for personal revenge. Let them," I said. The numbers don't lie. The money trails don't lie. And the photos they took of you don't lie. They'll have to explain those first. She squeezed my hand once, then let go. Go take a shower, she said. You smell like boardroom and bad decisions. I'll make eggs. Understood. You don't have to. I want to, she said. And you're going to eat them. No arguments. I smiled for the first time since the night before. Yes, ma'am. While the water ran hot, I leaned against the tile and let the steam fill the room. My phone buzzed on the counter. Texts, emails, notifications piling up like debris after a storm. I didn't check them. Instead, I thought about the diner booth waiting back in Akron, about crooked benches in half-finished parks, about a boy doing homework between hairdryers while his mother worked standing up until she couldn't feel her feet. I thought about how far I'd come, and how much farther I still intended to go. The eggs were simple, scrambled with a little salt, the way she'd made them on Sunday mornings when the salon was closed and the world felt briefly small enough to hold. We ate standing at the island because neither of us wanted to sit at the table and pretend this was normal. The television stayed muted, but the closed captions kept rolling the same phrases. Corporate coup, family betrayal, viral wedding takedown. After the plates were in the sink, Mom wiped her hands on a dish towel and said, I need to call the salon. Tell them I won't be back tomorrow. I looked up. You don't have to quit. You love that place. I love the people, she corrected. Not the commute. Not the way every new client asks if I'm related to that guy from the news. I'm tired of explaining myself to strangers who think they already know my story. She folded the towel once, twice, precise as always. Besides, if I stay, they'll keep coming. Reporters. Photographers. The same ones who followed me to the grocery store. I don't want to be watched while I sweep hair off the floor. He nodded. No argument. She'd earned the right to decide how much spotlight she could stand. I'll fly you back to Akron whenever you want, I said. Or Raleigh. Or wherever feels quiet. She gave me the look she used when I was 12 and trying to fix something that wasn't broken. I'm not running, Merrick. I'm choosing. There's a difference. We didn't speak again until the phone rang. My lawyer, Lawrence Drayden. I put him on speaker. Board's in emergency session, he said without preamble. Gregory's lawyers are screaming fiduciary breach, undue influence, insider trading. They're filing for injunction within the hour. Expected, I said. They also want to depose you. Today if possible. They're claiming emotional distress from the wedding triggered an irrational vendetta. Mom snorted softly. I almost smiled. Tell them I'll sit for deposition, I said. But only after the city's forensic accountants finish their preliminary walkthrough of Lincoln District. They can ask me anything once the ghost contractors are on record. Drayden paused. You sure? They'll try to paint you as the jilted groom who weaponized money. Let them try, I said. The paper trail doesn't care about feelings. He exhaled. You're calm for a man who just detonated a multi-generational real estate dynasty. I'm calm because I already decided the cost, I answered. Everything after this is just noise. I ended the call. Mom was watching me with that quiet, searching look she used when she knew I was holding something back. You're not going to keep the company, are you? She asked. No. I'll hold the shares long enough to force transparency. Open bidding on every stalled project, community oversight on new ones, clawback clauses on the missing millions. Then I sell my stake to a trust that can't be gamed. The money goes straight into the foundation. She nodded slowly. And Caitlin. The name landed heavier than I expected. I don't know, I admitted. She texted twice this morning. I haven't opened them. Mom reached over and turned my phone face down on the counter. Then don't. Not yet. Give yourself one day where the only person you answer to is the one who raised you. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. We spent the afternoon doing ordinary things. Laundry, dishes, a walk around the block because the loft felt too small for everything inside my head. Reporters had already found the building. 2 vans were parked across the street. We stayed inside, blinds half closed, and talked about nothing important. The new neighbor's terrible singing in the shower, how the coffee maker needed descaling, whether she should keep the gray hoodie or give it back. Around 4, the intercom buzzed. The doorman's voice crackled through. Ms. Aldridge is downstairs. Says it's urgent. She's crying. Mom looked at me. I looked at the door. Let her up, I said. Caitlin arrived in the same jeans and sweater from the viral photos that were already everywhere. No makeup. Hair pulled back in a messy knot. Eyes swollen but steady. She stopped just inside the doorway like she wasn't sure the floor would hold her. I'm not here to beg, she said before I could speak. I'm here to say I'm sorry. And to tell you I'm leaving Charlotte. Mom stayed quiet, arms crossed, leaning against the kitchen island. Caitlin swallowed. I resigned from every board my family put me on. I told the trustees I won't accept distributions from the family trust until the audit clears. I'm moving to Portland. Starting over. No Aldridge letterhead. No narrative. Just me. I didn't move. Why now? Because last night wasn't the first time I stayed silent, she said. It was just the loudest. I grew up learning that protecting the brand meant protecting the people who built it, even when they were wrong. I told myself it was loyalty. It was cowardice. She looked at Mom then. Really looked. I laughed because I was afraid not to. I'm ashamed of that. I'm ashamed I let them turn your life into footage without ever asking if you consented. I'm ashamed I didn't stop it the second I heard the words. Mom studied her for a long moment. You hurt my son, she said plainly. Not just last night. For months, years maybe. You let them package him like a product. You let them erase the parts that didn't photograph well. Caitlin nodded. Tears fell freely now. I know. But you're here, Mom continued. Standing in my son's kitchen. Saying it out loud. That counts for something. She stepped forward, slow, deliberate, and placed a hand on Caitlin's arm. Not forgiveness. Not absolution. Just acknowledgement. Go start over, Mom said. Do it clean. And if you ever find yourself in a room where someone's being reduced to a prop again, speak. Even if your voice shakes. Caitlin nodded once, hard. Then she looked at me. I loved you, she whispered. The real you. Not the story. I'm sorry I didn't fight harder for him. I didn't have an answer that felt true yet. So I gave her the only one I had. I believe you mean that, I said. I'm not sure it changes anything. But I believe you. She gave a small, broken smile, then turned and left. The door clicked shut behind her like the end of a very long chapter. Mom waited until the elevator dinged before she spoke. You didn't have to let her up. I needed to see her face when she said it, I answered. Needed to know if it was real. Was it? Yeah, I said quietly. It was. We stood in silence a while longer. Outside, the city kept moving. Cars, cranes, people who had no idea their skyline had just shifted ownership. That night I booked 2 tickets to Chicago. Wait. Mom insisted on coach because first class is for people who think they're better than the seat in front of them. I didn't argue. Before we left the loft, I opened my laptop one last time and drafted the press release for the L Foundation launch. No fanfare. No mission vision values deck. Just the truth. The L Foundation will provide scholarships, microgrants, and mentorship to young people from under-resourced neighborhoods. It exists because one woman worked 3 jobs, cut coupons with dull scissors, and never once let her son believe hard work was something to hide. Every dollar will go where it's needed. No photo ops, no branding, just results. I hit send to Drayden for review. Then I closed the laptop, turned off the television, and sat with my mother on the couch while the city lights flickered outside. She rested her head on my shoulder, the same way she used to when I was small and the heater was broken and we were waiting for morning. "You did good, kid," she murmured. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. For the first time in years, the story felt like ours again. The flight to Chicago was quiet. Mom slept most of the way, head against the window, the gray hoodie pulled up like a hood. I stared at the seatback screen without turning it on, replaying fragments. The boardroom silence after I dropped the share count, Caitlin's small nod when she left the loft, the way Mom's hand had felt steady on mine when she said, "You did good, kid." We landed at Midway just after noon. The air smelled like jet fuel, wet concrete, and the faint promise of spring. No one waited for us at baggage claim. No cameras, no questions. For the first time in weeks, the world felt ordinary again. The City Pulse office was still in the same converted warehouse on Fulton Market. Exposed brick, mismatched chairs, the faint smell of yesterday's coffee and tomorrow's ambition. Eli met us at the door, arms wide, grin wider. "Boss is back," he said, pulling me into a hug that lifted me an inch off the floor. "And he brought reinforcements." Mom smiled, small, real, and let Eli kiss her cheek like she was family. Inside, the team had cleared space for her. A corner desk with a view of the L tracks, a new ergonomic chair, a small potted succulent because someone remembered she liked green things that didn't demand much. She looked around, then at me. "You didn't have to do all this." "I didn't," I said. "They did." She ran her fingers over the chair back, testing the fabric. "I'm not sitting behind a desk all day." "You're not," Eli cut in. "You're teaching. We've got 12 high school interns starting next month. Kids from the south and west sides. They're supposed to learn code, design, community mapping. But half of them think hard work is something that happens on TikTok. You're the one who's going to show them what it actually looks like." Mom raised an eyebrow. "You want me to scare teenagers straight?" "I want you to tell them the truth," I said. "The way you told me." She didn't answer right away. She just sat in the chair, spun once, slow like she was trying it on. "Okay," she said finally. "But only if I get to keep the hoodie." I laughed. I felt something loosen in my chest. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of paperwork and possibility. The L Foundation wasn't glamorous. No glass tower, no gala launch. We filed as a non-profit out of a borrowed conference room. Initial funding came from the quiet sale of a portion of my Aldridge stake, enough to seed scholarships and microgrants without touching the voting control I still held to keep the company honest. The rest would come from donations, grants, and whatever City Pulse could spare after payroll. The first grant cycle opened quietly. No press release. Just an online form and a single paragraph. If you're between 14 and 19, live in a neighborhood most people drive around, and have an idea that could make your block better, apply. We don't care about your GPA. We care about what you see when you look out your window. We got 73 applications in the first 10 days. Eli and I stayed up past midnight reading them. Mom read too, sitting cross-legged on the couch with a highlighter and a mug of tea gone cold. She didn't say much at first. Then she started marking pages with small notes in the margins. "This girl sees the same empty lot I used to walk past every day. This boy wants benches with backs so old people don't have to stand. Read this one twice. He's angry. But anger is fuel if you aim it right." We awarded the first 12 grants on a Thursday evening in the warehouse. Folding tables, pizza boxes, a whiteboard with names and dollar amounts. No stage. No speeches longer than 30 seconds. One of the winners was a 16-year-old named Jamal from Englewood. Tall, quiet, hoodie pulled low. His idea. A mural wall on the side of an abandoned corner store, but not just art. Panels that doubled as solar-powered charging stations for phones. Kids miss school because their phones die before the bus comes, he wrote. If they can charge, they show up. If they show up, they graduate. When I handed him the check, $4,800, he didn't smile right away. He just stared at the paper like it might disappear. You really gonna let me do this? He asked. Yeah, I said. And we're gonna help you do it right. Permits, materials, a muralist mentor if you want one. He looked past me to Mom, who was standing near the pizza boxes watching everything with that calm, unreadable expression she wore when she was measuring someone. You his mom? Jamal asked her. She nodded once. Jamal swallowed. My mom works nights at the hospital. She says people like us don't get checks like this unless there's strings. Mom stepped closer. There's one string, she said. When it's done, you bring your mother to see it. You stand next to her in front of that wall and you tell her, this is what we built. That's it. No cameras. No interviews. Just the two of you. Jamal's shoulders dropped half an inch. I can do that. Good, she said. Because she deserves to see what her son can do when someone believes the idea in his head is worth more than the zip code on his mail. He nodded, eyes shining. Then he turned and walked straight to the whiteboard to write his name under Approved. Solar mural wall. I caught Mom's eye across the room. She gave me the smallest nod, the one that meant keep going. 2 months later the mural was finished. We didn't throw a party. We just showed up on a Saturday morning with coffee and donuts. The wall glowed in blues and golds, abstract city lines that turned into charging ports shaped like rising suns. 6 outlets. Free. Always on. Jamal's mother arrived last. Nurse scrubs, hair in a tight bun, eyes tired but sharp. She stopped 10 feet from the wall and stared. Jamal walked over and stood beside her. No words at first. Then he reached out, took her hand, and said exactly what Mom told him to say. This is what we built. She didn't cry. She just squeezed his hand so hard his knuckles went white. Then she turned to me. You're the one who said yes. I'm the one who wrote the check, I said. He's the one who dreamed it. She looked back at the wall. It's beautiful. It works, Jamal said quietly. Tested it last night. Kids were lined up at midnight. She nodded once, then pulled him into a hug that lifted him onto his toes. Mom stood a little apart watching. When the mother finally let go, she walked over. I'm Linda, Mom said, offering her hand. The woman shook it. Tamika. Thank you for seeing my boy. Mom smiled. He made it easy. We left them there. Mother and son standing in front of their wall, phones already plugged in, the city moving around them like it always had, only now a little brighter. Back at the warehouse that afternoon, I found Mom sitting at her desk with a legal pad, making a list. What's that? I asked. Next cycle, she said without looking up. We need more mentors. People who've actually lived it. Not just talked about it. I pulled up a chair. You volunteering. I'm insisting, she said. And I want to teach them how to cut corners the right way. Coupons. Bulk buying. How to stretch $1 without breaking your pride. I laughed softly. You're going to turn them into hustlers. I'm going to turn them into survivors who don't apologize for surviving, she corrected. She set the pen down and looked at me, really looked. You know this isn't going to fix everything, she said. 1 wall. 12 grants. It's a drop. I know. But it's our drop, she continued. And that matters. Yeah, I said. It does. We sat there until the sun slanted low through the windows, painting the brick gold. Outside, the L train rattled past. Inside, the office hummed with the quiet rhythm of people who believed tomorrow could be better than today. Later that week, Drayden called with the final numbers. Aldridge Group had been formally removed from every city pre-approved list. Gregory and Victoria were under investigation. Nothing criminal yet, but enough red flags that no bank would touch them for new lines of credit. The Lincoln District project was rebid under open competition. Community land trusts had already submitted proposals for 3 parcels. And your shares? Yes. Trust is ready, he said. You sign, they transfer. No strings. The foundation gets the proceeds in perpetuity. Do it. He paused. You sure? That's a lot of leverage to walk away from. I'm not walking away from leverage, I said. I'm walking toward something better. I hung up and looked across the office. Mom was at the whiteboard, writing names for the next mentorship cohort. She caught my eye and raised an eyebrow. Done, she asked. Done, I said. She smiled, full, unguarded, the way she used to when I was small and the rent was paid and the fridge wasn't empty. Good. Now come help me spell these kids' names right. I'm not embarrassing myself on the first day. I walked over. We stood shoulder to shoulder, marker in hand, writing futures one careful letter at a time. Months later, October, crisp air, leaves turning, we drove back to Akron for the first time since the wedding. No fanfare. Just a Saturday, a rental car, and the same stretch of highway that used to feel like escape. Maple Lane Diner hadn't changed. Same neon buzz, same chipped counter, same booth with the duct tape patch. The waitress recognized us immediately. Long time, she said, sliding menus over. You two look good. Mom smiled. We're getting there. We ordered coffee and pie. Same order as always. She pushed the bigger half toward me without asking. Pushed it back. Split it fair, I said. She laughed. You always were stubborn. We ate slowly. The place was quiet, mid-afternoon lull. Outside, the strip mall still stood, faded signs and cracked asphalt, but the salon's old space had new windows now. Someone had painted the door bright blue. You ever miss it? Yes. The salon. She thought about it. I miss the people. Not the standing. Not the chemicals. But the way a woman would walk in feeling invisible and leave feeling seen. That part one miss. You're still doing that, I said. Just with fewer blow dryers. She looked at me over the rim of her mug. You think it was worth it? She asked quietly. Everything. The wedding. The tower. The headlines. I set my fork down. I think if I'd stayed quiet, I said, I'd still be carrying the weight of that one sentence. Every time I looked at you, I'd see the moment they tried to make you small. And I'd hate myself for not saying anything. She reached across the table. Her hand covered mine, warm, steady, calluses and all. You didn't just say something, she said. You changed the room. I turned my hand over, palm to palm. We changed it, I corrected. She squeezed once, then let go. The waitress refilled our mugs without asking. Mom stirred sugar into hers, slow circles. Next time we come, she said, bring one of those kids. Jamal maybe. Let him see where you started. I will. And Marek. Yeah. Don't ever apologize for protecting what matters. He nodded. Never again. We finished the pie. Paid in cash. Exact change the way she liked. When we stepped outside, the air was cool, the parking lot lights just flickering on. The old pylon sign still stood, but the faded logo had been painted over. New letters now. Not Aldridge. Just a local market name in simple white. Mom paused, looked up at it. Funny, she said. Took them long enough to change the sign. Smiled. Some things take time. She slipped her arm through mine as we walked to the car. Some things take a son who refuses to wait, she said. We got in. I started the engine. She looked out the window at the diner shrinking in the rear view, then back at me. Home, she asked. Home, I said. And for the first time in years, the word felt like both directions. The drive back from Akron felt lighter than the drive out. The highway stretched ahead like it had finally decided to behave. No construction cones, no sudden rain, just clean asphalt and the low hum of tires on pavement. Mom had the window cracked, letting in the cool October air that carried the faint smell of burning leaves from somewhere off the interstate. She didn't speak much. She didn't need to. Every once in a while she'd reach over and adjust the radio dial 0.5 millimeter, chasing a station that kept fading in and out. Classic rock. The kind she used to play softly in the salon so clients wouldn't notice how tired she was. We stopped once, at a rest area just past Columbus. She bought 2 coffees from a machine that spat them out too hot and too bitter. We sat on a bench overlooking the parking lot, watching semis roll in and out like they had places more important than anywhere else. "You remember the winter the heat went out in the apartment?" she asked suddenly. He nodded. "I was 14. We boiled water on the stove to wash dishes. You called it spa treatment." She smiled into her cup. "You hated it. Kept saying the steam made your homework pages curl." "I did. But you still did the homework. Couldn't let you down." She looked at me then. Long, steady, the way she used to when I came home with a black eye or a report card that didn't match what she knew I was capable of. "You never let me down," she said. "Not once. Even when you were angry at the world, you never aimed it at me." I swallowed. The coffee burned going down. "I almost did. That night at North Crest. When they said it. For a second I thought about staying quiet. Letting it slide. Proving I belonged in their room." She set her cup on the bench between us. "Belonging isn't about fitting in their room. It's about making sure the next person doesn't have to shrink to fit." We sat with that for a while. Trucks idled past. A family unloaded kids from a minivan, stretching legs, laughing at nothing. Ordinary life moving forward while ours had just rewritten its own rules. When we got back to Chicago, winter arrived fast and mean. Snow in November, wind off the lake that cut through coats like paper. The warehouse office became a refuge. Space heaters humming under desks, string lights someone had strung across the ceiling because it feels less like a bunker. Mom took over the mentorship program like she'd been waiting her whole life for the job. She didn't lecture. She asked questions. Hard ones. Why do you think no one's fixed that lot yet? What happens if the city says no again? Who benefits if this stays broken? The kids answered honestly because she listened honestly. No judgment. No rush. Just a woman in a gray hoodie who'd once paid rent with exact change and still made sure her son had breakfast. Jamal came by every week after school. The solar mural wall had become a neighborhood landmark. Kids charging phones, old men sitting on the curb telling stories. Even the corner store owner started leaving free water bottles next to the outlets on hot days. Jamal was already planning phase 2. Benches made from recycled plastic, backs high enough for elders, shade canopies that doubled as rainwater collectors. "You think we can get the city to match us on materials?" he asked one afternoon. Mom looked up from the spreadsheet she was learning to hate. "You won't know unless you ask. But ask like you already know the answer is yes. Confidence isn't arrogance. It's practice." He grinned. "You sound like him." She glanced at me across the room. I was pretending to read emails. "He learned it somewhere," she said. By spring the L Foundation had its first full cohort. 24 kids, 4 cities. Grants ranging from $1,200 to $18,000. We didn't celebrate with champagne. We celebrated with takeout tacos and a whiteboard full of crossed-off names. Someone brought a cake with "Drop One" written in blue icing. Mom cut the first slice and gave it to the youngest kid in the room. A 14-year-old girl named Aisha who wanted to turn a vacant lot into a community garden that taught kids how to grow food they actually liked. Aisha took the cake, then looked at Mom. "You really think this is gonna work?" Mom crouched so they were eye level. "I think you're gonna make it work. And when it does, you're gonna teach the next girl how to do it better." Aisha nodded once, serious. "Deal." That summer we took the whole cohort to Akron for a weekend. Not a field trip. Homecoming. Mom insisted. They need to see where the story started. Not the shiny parts. The real ones. We rented a bus. Packed snacks, playlists, and too many pillows. Jamal sat up front with Mom, asking questions about the old salon, the landlord who never fixed the heat, the winter she worked 3 jobs and still made it to every parent-teacher conference. When we pulled into the Maple Lane Diner parking lot, the neon sign was flickering the same tired buzz. The kids piled out, stretching, laughing, phones already out. Mom led them inside like it was the most natural place in the world. Same booth. Same duct tape patch. The waitress recognized her instantly. "Linda Hale," she said, wiping her hands on her apron. "You brought an army." Mom smiled. "Just some friends who wanted to see the origin story." We ordered coffee, pie, fries. The kids crammed into booths, spilling over onto extra chairs. Jamal slid into the seat across from Mom. "This is it?" he asked. "This is it," she said. He looked around. The chipped formica, the buzzing fluorescent lights, the menu board with prices that hadn't changed since the 90s. "And you raised him here." "Raised him everywhere," she corrected. But this booth saw most of the homework. One of the girls, Aisha, leaned over. "Did you ever think he'd end up like this?" Mom thought about it. "I thought he'd be kind. I thought he'd be stubborn. The rest was up to him." Jamal looked at me. "You ever think about going back? Taking the company for real?" I shook my head. "I took what I needed. The rest belongs to people who'll do better with it." Outside, the sun was setting over the strip mall. The new blue door on the old salon space caught the light. Someone had hung plants in the windows. We stayed until closing. The waitress didn't rush us. When the last kid finally stood, full of pie and stories, Mom stayed behind to pay. I waited by the door. She walked over slowly, purse over her shoulder. Hoodie zipped against the evening chill. "You okay?" I asked. She looked back at the booth one last time. "I used to sit here wondering if we'd ever get out," she said. "Now I sit here wondering how many more kids get to start from somewhere better because we did." I offered my arm. She took it. We stepped outside. The bus was waiting, lights on, kids silhouetted in the windows. Somewhere down the road, the city skyline waited. Different now, less glass and more people who finally had a say. Back in Chicago the next week, Drayden sent the final transfer confirmation. The last of the Aldridge shares were gone, placed in a perpetual trust that funneled dividends straight to the foundation. No clubacks, no strings, just quiet, permanent support. I printed the email, folded it, and slid it into the drawer where I kept the old wedding invitation I'd never thrown away. Not as a trophy. As a reminder that sometimes the hardest thing isn't walking away. It's deciding what to build in the space that's left. That night Mom and I sat on the warehouse roof. Access forbidden, but we'd found the key years ago. City lights spread out below us like scattered coins. Wind off the lake was cold, but we didn't mind. She leaned her head on my shoulder. "You know what I'm proudest of?" she asked. I waited. Not the money. Not the headlines. Not even the kids, though they're pretty damn great. She took a breath. "I'm proudest that when they tried to make me small, you didn't let them. And you didn't just protect me. You made sure no one else has to shrink to fit someone else's story ever again." I put my arm around her. "That's not on me," I said. "That's on us." She laughed softly. "Stubborn. Learned from the best." We stayed until the cold drove us inside. The office was dark except for the glow of string lights and a single desk lamp someone had left on. Mom paused at her desk, picked up the legal pad where she still made lists. "Next cycle starts Monday," she said. Smiled. "Better get some sleep." She looked at me one last time. Eyes bright, tired, unbreakable. "Sleep's overrated," she said. "Stories aren't." And with that she turned off the lamp. The room went quiet. But the work, the real work, kept going. If this story moved you even a little, please consider subscribing Revenge with Kiren. It means the world to someone still learning how to tell the truth out loud.